Manchester City versus Real Madrid was absolutely amazing fun to watch. Hopefully you watched it too. End-to-end stuff, lots of chances. These were the teams. And in this video, I'm going to analyse the tactical setups of both, the system and individual players within it, and what they did and how it allowed for so many goals to happen in this game. Because you don't really associate these big Champions League semi-finals with many goals, yet there were loads. So the first thing to do, I think, is look at the setups of both teams and why they were that way. Now, City played their 4-3-3 that they always play. Rodri is the 6 over here. Surprising that Jesus started through the middle. He is a central striker a lot of the time. Scored 4 against Arsenal before this game. But he's often been playing off the wide areas like an inside forward. Really good numbers when he's pressing, so out of possession he's really very useful. But the thing that Guardiola had to deal with before this game is right back. Now, Kyle Walker was injured. John Stones was also coming back from injury. Both those players had a session in training after everyone else had gone away before this game to be ready for the match. And right back is a key position in this game because Vinicius Jr. for Real Madrid is one of their best players this season. Benzema is their best player this season. Also Modric. They've got lots of good players basically. But Vinicius, hugely dangerous, especially on the counter and just in situations where he has the ball, able to run 1v1 versus a fullback. So what City also have, we're looking at this sort of tie up here, is that they have wide wingers. Foden and Mahrez always wide, and this happened a lot. Jesus in the middle here. Silva and De Bruyne would be the free eights. Real Madrid, almost always a 4-3-3 at the moment. They were missing Casemiro, and this is a huge loss for them because he anchors everything here as the 6. Valverde played instead. He might have started on the right normally, and Rodrigo might have been not there, and Kroos might have been here, and Casemiro would have been here. And there's a lot of examples throughout this game where Casemiro's positioning and his defensive mind would really have solved a lot of problems. But let's get into the actual, how the game actually went. So the first goal is interesting. Let's look at it. So the first goal, we can see all the tactics we're talking about from the start in play. So Foden's wide, Mahrez is wide. Playing the wide wingers means that you stretch the defence a little bit. So Real are playing a back 4 and the spacing between them is absolutely fine in this situation. The rest of Man City's players are largely in position, as we said. So De Bruyne and Silva, they always do this. They have this sort of WM shape. I'm trying to draw it for you. You always have this, you have the 3 in one line, 2 in another, and it gives you a little bit of depth, and it allows for timing of runs from deep to get into scoring positions, which is what we're about to see in a second. Now, Laporte and Diaz are obviously the 2 centre-backs. Diaz drives the ball up into midfield, so he's now level with Rodri, trying to push Real Madrid right back in, and Real have their back 4, supported by a middle 5 of Vinicius Jr., Modric, Kroos, Valverde over here, ignore Rodrigo's over here. The fullbacks for Man City, I think, is interesting. Early in the game, so they would often come into the half spaces that we're talking about with Stones and Zinchenko would be in these half spaces to help out in the midfield. But because Diaz has moved into here, Stones naturally has to fall out into this wide area where they then get basically a 2v2 with these 2 players here. And when Bernardo Silva makes his run, which he makes in a second, it gives them an overload. So Diaz has the ball, he's driven into midfield, here he is. He manages to fire it into Mahrez. Mahrez is now 1v1 with Mendy over here. This is the left back for Real Madrid. Now, Jesus is here, Silva has moved into this last line, and because Mahrez is here, what Silva does is make a very clever run. Well, is it clever? It's quite basic actually. He makes this run, and because Alaba, who didn't have a very good game whatsoever, is trying to stay tight to him, he reads that as Mahrez is going to play this ball on the outside. So he goes with Silva a little bit, and because he does that, that suddenly frees up this massive bit of space here. And Mahrez sees that. So what he does is takes on Mendy, goes past him into this space, drives into it. It's exactly what you can do. Great players can do that. Modric, you don't even notice him in this move. He's already read that happening as soon as Alaba's gone, and he steps in to stop Mahrez being able to shoot here or to play Jesus in. Militao's tight to him as well here. Now, Militao's watching Jesus. Modric has very cleverly tried to cut this out. Mahrez has to go back in here now. And this is where we are, right? So Alaba has been taken out of the game by Silva. It's really bad defended by Alaba. Mendy's been done by Mahrez, who's really good. Vinicius is not in place to help out in time. The only pass Mahrez can really make, or the best pass he can possibly make, is this ball over the top. And that's exactly what he does, because De Bruyne has held his position here. Silva is playing the same role as De Bruyne on the opposite side. Silva's gone, taking the defender out of the way. Carvajal has to watch Foden this side here. That's the benefit of a wide winger because he can't come inside. He's got Foden out here. De Bruyne just makes this run in here. And as he runs in, he's basically gone between Carvajal and Militao because the spacing's left here. It's just this little error of positioning by the defenders means that De Bruyne has time to move in, Valverde doesn't track him, and then the header is unbelievable. So the ball comes in from Mahrez like this, diving header, goal. That's 1-0. So that is a bit of the system from City helping create a tiny bit of space within Real Madrid's backline, and then it's individual skill from Mahrez, clever movement from Silva, and a brilliant finish from De Bruyne. Let's move on to goal number 2. Goal number 2, so Zinchenko, who is out in the wide area and left back, comes into the midfield in this sort of area here, which then means that Laporte can go into this wide area here. Now, one of the things you want to do when you're setting up your team to try and beat them is work out where the space will be. City seem to know that the space would be in wide areas and over the top of the fullbacks. They played quite a few long balls in this game. Now Laporte, very good at distributing the ball, plays this pass into the channel. Not usually a fan of channel balls, but these were working. And because Carvajal had pushed up, one of the things that Ancelotti seemed to have told his players to do was to push up and be aggressive, and anyone in the midfield that they could see a chance to go and intercept, they were looking to try and make that. Carvajal was, for some reason, was slightly out of position, which left Militao needing to deal with Foden. Foden is in the wide area, the ball comes over the top, Foden controls it, amazing control on his chest, Militao pushes out to try and deal with him, and Foden takes it past him and takes him to the line. Now, you can sort of see the problem is here. Militao is a centre-back, Alaba is now on his own, so there's two centre-backs, far too much space between them. Carvajal's been caught, he tries to get back, so he's trying to get back as well. Kroos, just like Modric, such a clever player, has seen this problem develop already, tries to get back. City are faster, but what you have now is Jesus, and you have Bernardo Silva's raced in, and you have Mahrez at the back post. So Mendy and Alaba have to worry about 3 players in this position, and Kroos can't really do much. Militao does well to keep Foden in this area here. Carvajal eventually gets back, and De Bruyne joins in. So what we have now is Foden and De Bruyne 2v2 with these players here. So Real, they're in a transitional moment, they're trying to get back into defensive shape, struggling to do it. But what happens now is Foden has to come back a little bit because of decent 1v1 defending from Militao. He goes back to De Bruyne. Now, Kroos takes up the position round about this area here because he anticipates that the ball that De Bruyne is going to play, which he does, is going to come into this sort of area here. But he's just not quite in position to stop it. So Real know what ball is going to come in. It does actually come in. De Bruyne fires it in here over the top of Kroos. The players are a bit bigger than they should be, really. But the ball comes in here. Now, is this a bit of skill from Jesus or is this bad defending from Alaba? It's hard to kind of work out. I think it's bad defending from Alaba. He is a centre-back. Jesus is here. The ball comes into his feet. Now, Alaba has to be tight to him, so he can't turn, but he can't show him just one side. Alaba tries to get round the side of him and nick it, which next to your 6-yard box, I think is a bad decision personally. So then Jesus is able to control and just turn him. And you can see Alaba is even still looking this direction, like that. Jesus turns him and then plants it into the corner. I think that's poor defending from Alaba. It's just a bad example of how you should defend that sort of situation as a centre-back. But again, the wide wingers from Man City, Foden's over here dragging the play out, Carvajal moving in, they're attacking the space. The spacing between the centre-backs is poor. Militao and Alaba just had a poor game here, but it's great individual skill from De Bruyne, excellent individual skill from Jesus, and a mistake from Alaba. A lot of the stuff in this game is that the systems help create the chances, but it's more about individual players making errors and also just being brilliant. And in a game of this good, one of the things I noticed about this sort of game is that any weaknesses, any slight weaknesses in the two teams really stand out. So Zinchenko's defensive ability really stands out. Carvajal being caught out of position really stands out. Slight errors from Alaba, like he'd get away with it playing for Bayern Munich at centre back in the Bundesliga. He gets away with it because he's often in control and is normally like a defensive midfielder. But when you're playing as an actual centre back against these sorts of teams, tiny errors like this are punished with goals. Right, so that's the second goal. Let's move on to the next bit. The other thing I noticed about this game is that I think it's to do with mentality. City didn't kill Real Madrid off. It's all easy saying that, but Real Madrid are like a very difficult final boss in a video game. The first few rounds might seem a bit easier, almost like it's leading you in to show you how to do it. But then if you don't kill them, they just come back stronger and stronger, and you think you've killed them, but they're not. They come back another level. City, after that 2-0 up, it seemed almost too easy. At 10 minutes in, Real Madrid were really in a bit of a panic, and then I think City kind of slackened off a little bit. And you saw it with, in particular, the kind of mistakes that they used to make. So taking too long on the ball, taking too many touches, and the slightest error in these games makes a huge difference. So for example, they're forced back, the Real Madrid, press, maybe they're just trying to push up, right? It goes back to Laporte, he puts it back to Ederson. Now, Vinicius Jr. working really hard, he's become a great player for Real Madrid on and off the ball, tries to close him down. Ederson sees him, rather than just playing a straight pass back to Laporte, which would take Vinicius out of the game, and Laporte could then just build from here, and he's in position to receive this because Diaz and Laporte always split. They always split either side of the goalie to make sure he's got these two options. So the ball comes back to Ederson, Laporte's here, ready for the return. He's got his back to this goal, but facing Ederson, can receive and knows he's got options because he's scanning all the time. Rodrigo's out of position. It goes here. Vinicius Jr. does a really good job of closing him down like this. So he makes this sort of run. Because when he makes that run, if he goes straight, then Ederson can just go straight like this, either side. Because he just goes like this, it means that Ederson can't go this way because he's blocking that one side. And it just shows him in. And Benzema's close to Rodri as well. He's closing him down here. Now, the ball goes out to Vinicius Jr. Once this happens, Benzema starts to make his run over to Diaz because he knows the ball has to go here. Vinicius closes him right down. He doesn't make the quick pass. He takes another touch. It's too long. Vinicius Jr. closes him down. Bit of a scare. Passes to Diaz. This is the problem. But Benzema reads it, shows, again, similar sort of thing. Gets the wrong side of Diaz. So Benzema gets really tight like this. Diaz now just has to try and get rid, but Benzema's shown him, knows what he's going to do, steps around with his left foot, and the ball spills. So it's a tackle made. This is all error. This is good pressing from Real Madrid. Clever. I mean, it's clever, but it's very basic. You're just showing the ball one way, and City have let it slip. And then the ball's here. Vinicius comes in, and I think what happens actually is it comes off Diaz's foot, comes off the post, and bounces away. They get away with it because Vinicius is offside. But this was a sign, I think, that City had just started to slacken off a little bit and hadn't killed the enemy, the beast, the final boss of Real Madrid. And then what happened after that? Man City were slack in a different sort of way, and that is an attack. And what I mean by that is that there should have been a third goal. So they should have scored in this first half, and I think that would probably have buried Real Madrid. And this is not perfect, but the way this basically works is that De Bruyne was often taking up these spaces on the left, because again, they find a lot of space out wide in Real Madrid because they need to be a bit more narrow out of possession. De Bruyne is round about here in this situation, Silva's round about here. Basically, the ball bounces in this sort of area, and Silva, you'll see it in the game in the highlights, does a little back heel flick, like a side of this foot flick, over the top of a defender, and Real Madrid don't win their 1v1 duels. But the relevant thing about this is that, again, this thing that they kept doing where Militao or Alaba were pushing up to be aggressive, normally Militao, he's in this midfield bit trying to win the ball in midfield because they don't have Casemiro, so they want that aggression there. He comes in, because he misses this, Silva goes past him, someone tries to close him down, and that leaves De Bruyne able to nip in through. So basically, Silva goes over one person, they'd missed that. The ball goes to De Bruyne, who's able to skip past another challenge. Silva comes round to support, the ball bounces back to here, and then what you've got is Mendy and Carvajal trying desperately to deal with the overload that Man City have, because you've got Mahrez and you've got Foden. But because De Bruyne breaks through, suddenly you've got this sort of situation here. So it's De Bruyne and you've got Mahrez and Foden. Now Mendy's trying to watch him, Carvajal's over here. So this is the bit where you think Mahrez should have passed to Foden, right? This is where they should have buried it. Once Silva's done a little bit of skill to go over someone, they've missed a duel, they've lost another duel, De Bruyne has managed to get away. He breaks past Mendy. Carvajal's the only lad back, he's the only guy back. Now he's got Foden here, Mahrez here. And I think it's actually really good defending from him. So De Bruyne passes out to Mahrez. Now, this is a huge moment. Mahrez knows that if they score the third, he'll have this in his mind. If he scored the third, they're probably going to win this game against Real Madrid, 3-0 up within however many minutes. It's very early in the game. What Carvajal has to do is he has to block this pass into Foden. He has to block this at all costs. And because Mahrez is left-footed, I think when the ball comes into him here, I think a right-footed player or a more confident player, right or ambidextrous player, I think he would hit a first-time pass over, because Carvajal is here, is going to come across like this to try and stop the shot and to also try and block the ball going over. But Mahrez doesn't take it on his right foot and hit a first-time pass. If he takes the ball from De Bruyne and it's a first-time pass on his right foot, then Foden comes in to score. But because I think the chance is so huge, the ball comes from De Bruyne and he waits to control it on his left. So he just waits for the ball to come to him, controls on his left. By the time he's done that, Carvajal is across and has cut the pass. There is no angle for Foden. He cannot make this pass now because of the way that Carvajal's closed him down. So if he hits it first time on his right, Foden's in, probably scores. Because he waits for his left foot, he only gives himself the option of shooting. He shoots, hits side netting. It looks like it's a real wasted chance. It sort of is. But this is the thing, right? Mahrez, amazing player, having one of his best seasons just now. I think a super elite player knows to hit that first time to Foden to shoot. And I think if it weren't Real Madrid, if he's playing against Watford or, I don't know, name another team, Valencia, right? I think he hits that first time when they score. That's one of the things that happens. But that's letting Real Madrid off the hook. That's one of the things that happens. Now, there's more. Real Madrid's goal, this is how they score. This is a little bit of City slacking off. I think an amazing individual skill from the players that Real Madrid have. And the way it happens is that, again, Ederson takes a bit too long on the ball, is closed down. I think it's Benzema, might be Vinicius who closes him down. But he's very much forced into, he's looking to either clear or pick a pass, tries to find the ball over here, doesn't. Real Madrid win the ball back. City don't win the second ball, and so what then happens is it pings around a bit, gets out to this left side here. The problem they have is that Vinicius Jr. Is going to play inside or round a bit here next to John Stones. He's kind of out of the game, and so what City need is backup from Mahrez, but Mahrez has just been, they're going end to end. Foden's just missed a chance. They're being end to end, so they're maybe a bit tired. Mahrez is just slightly too slow getting back. Mendy arrives in this sort of position here as the overlapping fullback, and they were often trying to double up in these areas with Vinicius Jr. and Mendy in these wide areas. But what you have is that City try and get back into their shape, defending very compact. The back four lines up Zinchenko, Laporte, Diaz, Stones. Obviously you have Vinicius here. Benzema positions himself, as what clever players do. He's recognised Zinchenko as the weak link in the back four. He's positioned himself just next to him. That's where he's going to go when this ball comes in. The rest of the team doesn't really matter, but Mendy has gone here. If Mahrez is just a tiny bit quicker getting back, he gets in here and closes them down. Instead what he does is he starts to jog back, comes in here, starts to come here, and then does this sort of like jump thing to stop it. Doesn't stop it, the ball goes in, and then it's amazing skill from Benzema. Gets ahead of Zinchenko and finishes perfectly. You can't really teach what he does. That's incredible. If it wasn't Benzema, that wouldn't be a goal. This is the thing. You give Real Madrid 3 chances, they score 5 goals. It's really difficult. City created heaps and heaps and heaps of chances. They're taking advantage of lots of space in this first half. And in the second half, they started really, really well. And what happened was that John Stones got hooked. I think it's because of injury, not exactly sure. But you can show you the one thing that happens again at the start of the second half. For the goal that they score. Half time, second half, start the second half, a couple of changes. Stones is off, Fernandinho's on. At right back, it's a big change that happened in the first half actually. But also Alaba gets hooked, off, gone, on comes Nacho. Ancelotti clearly not happy with Alaba's defending, but we've seen examples of that already, probably why that was. Positioning, just a lack of aggression, 1v1 when needed to, just didn't play very well. Now, at the start of the second half, Mahrez gets through on goal and once again is shown onto his right, doesn't make the pass he could have done earlier when he should, and it ends up hitting the post with a left-footed shot. But very soon after, there's an example of the same exact move that Real Madrid play, that one results in a turnover that City score from, and one results in Real Madrid scoring. It's kind of nuts. So what happens is Mendy has the ball, and he looks for this pass down the channel towards Vinicius Jr. Now in the first occasion, what happens is he makes this pass, Vinicius Jr. has his back to goal, Fernandinho reads it, speeds in, steals it, and then he goes, races up the pitch, so he goes like to here. Plays it into Mahrez, goes up to here, Mahrez finds him again, Fernandinho is closed down by the fullback, but gets the ball to the back post, and because of the way that Real Madrid are panicking to get back in here, Phil Foden, again, wide winger is out here, you can escape your marker, he comes in, gets in between Carvajal and Militao, heads the goal. Heads the goal, heads the ball. It's a goal. That's what he does. And that's Fernandinho reading the play, far more aggressive and probably quicker than John Stones, but just more an aggressive player. Reads it, gets in, scores the goal by getting the ball into Foden here. Perfect example of that exact thing working. That's something that they would have been taught to look for before the game. Then, Real Madrid keep building up in the same way, because why would you change? Put this over here. This is what they know. This time Mendy plays the ball. Fernandinho is in the same sort of situation. Vinicius is out wide. Ball comes in from Mendy, exactly the same sort of thing in here. Fernandinho gets tight. Vinicius knows it's coming and just skins him. A little flick with his heel, puts him around the back. Suddenly, he's just going to drive at goal. And this is the problem. So you've got, I think it's Diaz and Laporte trying to deal with this. It might actually be Diaz's up here, so it's Zinchenko. That's what it is actually. This is what it looks like. You've got Laporte, Zinchenko. Laporte starts sprinting back. Benzema's with him. Zinchenko's here. It's got Rodrigo here. Now, this is the problem they've got. So Vinicius is obviously running in here. And what you might think is that Laporte will come across to try and narrow the angle, because he wants to get across here to stop Vinicius being able to score this area. This is what you don't want, is getting the ball into these situations where you can curl it on his right foot, because he's right-footed. So this is going to run like this. Laporte doesn't come back. He sprints straight down the middle. He's constantly scanning, sees Benzema is next to him. He also knows Zinchenko is here, and he knows if he goes over to close this down, it's going to leave Vinicius with a chance to pass into Benzema, and then it's 2v1 with Zinchenko. Now that's not ideal. That is just an overload. They should be able to score from this. That probably, in the split-second decision-making that Laporte is making, is probably the safer option, is to hold position and just try and slow things down to get Vinicius so he can't score. But what happens instead, Rodri tries to run back in as well. He's got some players around him trying to get back, you see, but they can't make it in time. They're not fast enough. Vinicius gets here, Rodri slides in, Laporte is still watching Benzema, Zinchenko's still got Rodrigo, but Vinicius scores. And that's the sort of thing. It's two of the exact same moment. One of them turns into a goal for City because Fernandinho bursts and Foden takes advantage of the blind side of the defender to score the header. And the other time they do it, Real Madrid score, despite the move starting at the halfway line. I mean, this goal is not... Real Madrid will have been set up to counter City and take advantage of any space left behind like this. But this is an example of the system being in place to try and help the team win the game. Obviously that's what you want to do, but it's individual players with individual skill, like that Vinicius moment is unbelievable to get in behind, that allow them to basically to win the game. There's a goal later on that Silva scores where Real Madrid switch off because the referee is about to blow his whistle because there's a clear foul on Zinchenko around about this area here. Defence switch off, and that split second where Silva decides to then just boot the ball into the top corner from an amazing angle, that's the sort of thing that when a game like this, you can't expect it. If Real Madrid are switched on, there's no foul, they're probably not going to let him have the space to shoot. Then the final goal obviously is Benzema scoring the Panenka. That's just top tier player, unbelievable. The game was so fun to watch. The second leg's going to be amazing. And what we can tell you about the whole thing is that, like I'm saying, you give Real Madrid 3 chances to score 5. The XG for this, Man City, depending where you go, Man City 3.08, Real Madrid 1.66. The game was 4-3. City had more chances to score. They actually took the more difficult chances. They could easily have been 4-5-0 in the first half for City. Could easily have finished, I don't know, another time 2-0 to Real Madrid. Great game. Really pleased these two teams are going for each other. The second leg is going to be amazing. That is where all the goals came from. A bit of system, mostly individual player skill. Second leg is going to be amazing. That's our video.
If you like this video, please consider subscribing to the channel. The Athletic is home to some of the world's best sports journalists, including David Ornstein, Daniel Taylor, Ollie Kay, Amy Lawrence and Rafa Honigstein. There are journalists dedicated to each Premier League team, so every fan gets the coverage they deserve, not just the big clubs. And you can try it for free now for 30 days. See the link in the description.